Hey everybody. So just got done, yeah, I just got done having this amazing live webinar. We talked about some amazing stuff. It was great. And then I sat down and I went to convert the recording and it didn't work. So this is the recording you're receiving of me recreating the webinar that we just had, which I promise you, give you everything that I just gave them because we had tons of people on. And the comments and feedback, I'm still getting emails right now over the last little while since we finished about how the webinar went. And part of me is like, oh, but hey, I mean, when I'm playing golf and I hit a bad shot and just out of frustration drop another ball, usually the second one I hit is better. So hopefully this one is just as good. I don't want to say it's better because everyone who took the time to attend the live one, I thought it was apparently from the feedback, it went fantastic. But without further ado, because I don't want to fly through this. I don't want you guys to miss some of the great things that we talked about. I started the webinar by introducing everyone to the Mandino group who has been there live in case you didn't know much about us. I'll do that pretty quick in this one just because I want to make sure that we get to the material before I run out of time today to recreate this webinar. So we're the official Mandino company. Og wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World about 50 years ago, one of the greatest books ever written, okay? We're in one of our training rooms here at our offices. I mentioned this live, but comments came through. Apparently there isn't an echo that I can hear, just kind of an empty room sound, so hopefully it isn't too bothersome. But what we're talking about today is how personal development is broken, which is funny because we work in personal development. This is my profession. This is what our company has done for the last 17 years with 100,000 entrepreneurs and executives and CEOs that we've personally worked with and been able to measure their thought processes and taking them on a journey that has been so thoroughly fulfilling for us and for our clients. Now, in this webinar, in talking about these pieces, there's some really important points that I want to share with you leading up to that, okay? So hopefully you know who we are. Hopefully you know what we do. If you don't, go to ogmandino.com. Give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more about all the different services that we do, the work that we do with high-level CEOs, Global 100 companies, down to mom-and-pop shops, direct sales and marketing, to relationships, professional athletes that we work with, all kinds of different stuff. So happy to talk to you about our company another time. Just want to get right to the information that you came for in this recording. So personal development is broken. The first thing that we're going to talk about before we dive into this is one of the most dangerous phrases that you can ever use. One of those dangerous phrases that is going to totally disrupt your opportunity to take in this recording and take in the information that we're talking about here. And it is, I get it. I get it is so dangerous. I know I'm not winning any awards for handwriting today, but hopefully you can read it pretty well. I get it can disrupt your opportunity to really learn what you want to learn. Now, to really create results, I should say, because you can learn plenty of things without it making an impact on what you do. So whatever we talk about today, whatever I just talked about in the webinar that I'm now talking about to you again, okay, be careful to not go here. Because when we're learning this stuff, when we're having ahas, oftentimes it doesn't feel like something new. Oftentimes it feels familiar, and our logical brain, our intellectual brain wants to jump in and say, yeah, that makes sense, so I already knew that. Or it'll piece things together really fast and say, I get it. And we miss the opportunity to dive below the surface. Now, a lot of people know the example of an iceberg, that under the water, yeah, it's a rather strange looking iceberg, but you got this iceberg and only like 10% of it's up here, 90% of it's down here. It's the same thing with us. As soon as you say, I get it, boom, you've cut off the opportunity to have the information we're talking about be able to seep down into what Og Mandino called your other mind. This is really cool, okay? The one that never sleeps and makes us act in ways we do not comprehend. Ooh, okay, no, but really, it's awesome. It's really cool. 50 years ago, Og Mandino sitting there typing on this electric typewriter, just watching his fingers go, writing the 10 scrolls in one night, totally inspired writing. And now we're watching over the last 50 years, neuroscience and physiology and kinesiology just confirming scientifically what he was writing about poetically 50 years ago. So cool. So awesome. It's why the scrolls are affirmationally, supplementally built into everything that we do. because they are that strong. They are that powerful. And if we stop at I get it, we miss the opportunity of what Og disrupted 50 years ago to say, no, it doesn't matter if you get it. It matters if you keep it, if it can become a habit, because getting it doesn't make it a habit. This down here is all habits. This is what rules our life, habits. That's what's under the surface. And I get it will disrupt the opportunity to create those habits and the habits sink in. So please, as you're listening to this information today, and any information that you're taking in to personally develop yourself, understand that I get it is going to be a natural instinct, but don't let it sink in, because otherwise it won't sink in. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay? Second thing, it's really important if I'm going to make some claim, like personal development is broken, which I really do for a lot of the population believe that it is, that there's a major fundamental challenge in our perception of personal development. If we're going to make this argument, if we're going to go here, we're going to want to define personal development to be totally fair. And personal development is defined as enhancing the quality of life is the first part. So it's to enhance the quality of life, and it is to contribute to the realization of one's dreams and aspirations. Okay, so personal development, most simply and most widely accepted definition, is to enhance the quality of life and contribute to the realization of one's dreams and aspirations. I don't argue that at all. But there's some really important things we're going to want to point out and talk about right now. The first one is to enhance. To enhance the quality of life. What is life? Life is everything. I get on with a potential client, I say, tell me about you. And they say, well, professionally and personally. Yes. Because that's you. It's all you. Relationships, where you work, what you do, that's life. So we're enhancing all of this. Now, there's professional development, but that's just personal development with some corporate nuances, but it's the same thing. So we're going to enhance life. We're going to enhance everything. We're going to enhance who we are. We're going to enhance who we love. We're going to enhance who we work with. We're going to enhance the way that we work. We're going to enhance life. That's personal development. Second, we're going to contribute to, it's a big one, the realization of our dreams and our aspirations. Not the motivation, not the visualization of our dreams and aspirations, the realization, as in actually being realized, actually occurring. Your dreams and your aspirations become realities and accomplishments. Okay? Your dreams and aspirations become realities and accomplishments. That is personal development. That's why all those successful people you talk to and you hear about, you read about, say personal development is crucial. It's essential because they enhance the quality of their life. It's why you wanted to hear from that person. And they realized their dreams and aspirations. They learned the habits, remember under the surface on that iceberg, they learned the habits that allow them to always be able to turn these into these and turn these into these. That is personal development. And that is broken. I'm going to tell you why after we establish a couple things. After these messages. No, not really. I'm going to tell you why after we establish a couple foundational pieces that are crucial and critical to the conclusion that we're going to make today about personal development being broken. And ultimately, and that's not the point of this webinar, it's not to indict personal development. Personal development didn't do anything wrong. It's the way that we're viewing it. It's the way that we're actualizing it. It's the way that we're approaching it, a number of different things. But I don't want you to walk away from this webinar going, yeah, he's right, personal development's broken. No, I want you to go, wow, I've got a solution to a problem I may not even realize that I had. Because he didn't just spend 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, talking about what's wrong and what's broken. He built a context, built a story, and then showed us how to approach it differently. And that's really what I want to do today. So, but the first thing that we've got to establish, we could spend this entire recording on, is you and your thoughts. You and your thoughts. You, thoughts, you, thoughts, you, thoughts, thoughts, you, thoughts, you. Two separate identities, two separate entities, two separate influences. You, guess what? Here's the good news. You are awesome. Seriously. And I don't just say that because I look like Tony Robbins, I have huge hands and whatever. Really, because you are. You're awesome. You're great. You are perfectly you, which is one of my favorite phrases out there to describe us. We've learned over the years, working with tens of thousands of clients, working in the science and mathematics of personal development, where it's not just conjecture, it's not just kind of a feeling or an instinct. All those things have value, but if they're not solidified by defined principles, defined processes, and proven objective measurement for that clarity, then you're going to fall short. And we've discovered that you have no weaknesses. Is that awesome? Well, then why do I want personal development? What do I need personal development for? It's funny because personal development becomes a bad joke, like self-improvement. You can't really improve yourself. I love the Einstein quote that said, the mind cannot solve a problem that it created itself. I'm not necessarily going to go against that. That's totally true. We get into the mindset and the thinking habits and how if you really think you can get up here and start thinking about the way that you're thinking so that you can think differently, good luck with that. That's like climbing Mount Everest with a pair of skis on and your arms tied behind your back. Okay, it's not going to be easy is what I'm saying. Okay, so but you have no weaknesses. You have strengths that get out of control. That's the reality of this relationship here, is that there's you, your true self, your enthos hectic, your true authentic self, your genius, your talents, your gifts. That part of you, or not part of you, that is you, is amazing. That's awesome. But then you've got this connection to these thoughts. And these thoughts aren't you, but they impact everything about you. They impact your emotional state. They impact the actions you take, the decisions that you make, and they impact the results that you create. There is this symbiotic, perpetual, reciprocal relationship between you and your thoughts, and you and your thoughts. But you are not your thoughts. Here's your first challenge to not say, I get it. Because I've been doing this for a long time with a lot of people, and every day I still wake up to take on this challenge and learn more about this relationship, to learn more about this dichotomy. Your thoughts, your thinking habits, there are some that are supporting you, and there are some that are sabotaging you. That's why we take on personal development. We want to identify the ones that are sabotaging us, and we want to optimize the ones that are supporting us, and we want to shift the ones that are sabotaging us to be more in alignment with the ones that are supporting us. That will enhance the quality of life. That will help us realize our dreams and aspirations. But the way we are doing that is broken. So there's you and your thoughts. Spend all day talking about this dynamic. And it's the first thing we talk to our clients about when we get on the phone with them. And we have scientifically measured, okay, here's the big ones, with the formal science of axiological mathematics, Cantor's transfinite calculus, and the concept of infinitudes, we have been able to scientifically measure with laser accuracy, like putting a thermometer outside, okay, to measure the temperature of your thought processes. It's that accurate, totally objective, so that we can measure this. Now, some of you have taken this assessment. You felt like it told you a lot about you. It didn't tell you anything about you. It told you about your thoughts. So if you've taken the assessment, or you're going to take the assessment, okay, understand that. There's you, but that's not what we're measuring. There's plenty of assessments out there that'll measure your personality, your behavior, your attributes, whatever, tons of things. They'll diagnose you. We want to measure your thoughts because knowing more about you without knowing about the impact that your thoughts are having on you is going to be a hamster wheel. And for some people, personal development is felt like a hamster wheel. So your thoughts, understanding that relationship and how deep it goes. Some of us take really broad strokes when we start to understand the impact that our thoughts are having on us. But the fact of the matter is that we have over 80,000 conscious thoughts a day. And over 83% of those are the same thoughts we had the day before. Do you remember all your thoughts from yesterday? Start writing them down. See if you can come close to 80,000. And not to mention the 2 million unconscious thoughts that we have, plus every day. So there's you and your thoughts. This is a dichotomy. This is a relationship that is a lifelong pursuit of understanding. This is just the reality of our human condition, is that our true selves, cha-ching, awesome. And that's the person we feel we can connect to in our mind when we're at a seminar or reading a book or listening to a speech, and then wonder why when we show up Monday morning to dive in, why when these show back up, we get railroaded or frustrated, pissed off. I can see myself doing it. What happened? We're going to talk about that today. Okay? So that's the first thing, is you and your thoughts. Actually, that's the second thing. The first thing was, I get it. Remember, we're not going to say, I get it. We're going to stay curious. Because when we're curious, we're looking around, we're paying attention. We're asking strange questions about what could be or what's true or what's not. Not from an indicting perspective or being vindictive or anything like that. From a being curious and open and willing to embrace kind of perspective. And the second one is understanding that there's your thoughts and then there's you. Now, most people will see, and I've mentioned them, books, speeches, seminars, and even coaching. Most people define that as personal development. That's personal development. I mean, you go to Barnes & Noble, for those of us who still go to Barnes & Noble, no offense, and on the top of the section, personal development. You go on to Amazon, you go on to Audible, whatever, personal development. I'm here to tell you that those are not personal development. And that, one of the crucial reasons personal development is broken. And we'll get to how to fix it in just a minute. Get to the appropriate context of personal development in just a minute. But I wanted you to understand that's not personal development. Now, I'm not saying those are bad. I'm not saying those are a waste of time. Quite the contrary. Those are essential and they are critical, but they are not personal development. So if we're going to take on personal development, we're going to actually enhance the quality of life. We're going to realize our dreams and aspirations. Not just visualize, realize them. Real, we can actually touch them and actually spend that money rather than depositing fantasy checks. We're going to want to understand some of the enemies in that dichotomy of us and our thoughts. Now, there are 7 of them. We only have time today to talk about 3. There are 7 primary enemies that get in our way of allowing ourselves to be our true selves more often and stay there longer so that we can enhance the quality of our life and actually realize our dreams and aspirations. The first one we're going to talk about today is destructive dialogue. Destructive dialogue. Now, you may not have come on here wanting to talk about self-esteem, self-worth, and mushy. It's not like that at all. It is mathematically proven that the most significant realization in your life is your own pricelessness and infinite worth, and then the pricelessness and infinite worth of others. It's mathematical. It's scientifically proven that the intrinsic power, the Aleph index 1 to the power of an Aleph index 1, if you want the calculus for it, is the most valuable measurement that there can be in our conscious thought. And it is the intrinsic embrace of our uniqueness, our pricelessness, and of others. However, I know, we know statistically that over 85% of you watching this recording have major challenges, 85% have major challenges with destructive dialogue. Simply put, if I said some of the things that your thoughts say to you, we wouldn't be friends. It's easy for you to see me as something outside of you because I am, and so you evaluate that differently. The challenge is we're not doing that with our thoughts. Remember, thoughts, us. The more we learn about the relationship, the more likely we are to not be up in our thoughts and to be able to step back and observe our own thoughts, to think about our own thoughts with that amazing gift of metacognition. What's metacognition? Metacognition is the ability to realize the difference between us and our thoughts. And that is of perpetual depth. It never ends. Our awareness and how deep that can go, seeing where we can disconnect the wires that are creating influence of sabotage and being able to align wires of influence for supporting our efforts and our dreams and our aspirations. So we want to be able to be more metacognitive. We call it being in the observer's chair. It's the strongest place you can live. In the observer's chair, you are in complete control. And you are as aware as you possibly can be of the impact of your thoughts, of the influence they're trying to create on you, and you're choosing to think differently. And in that space, it's about taking on this destructive dialogue. Because it's sitting there talking to you. It's like Slugworth and Willy Wonka. It's just, it's just constantly whispering in your ear about what you can and can't do, about what they do and don't think about you, about what's really possible in your life, about the way you need to act to get things done. All this stuff. Destructive dialogue. You're going to want to be able to measure this stuff. You're never going to be able to shut it off. It doesn't go away. You can quiet it down. You can master it. You can stay in the observer's chair to be better than it. But every day you're going to wake up and there's going to be some form of destructive dialogue. The challenge is most of us have allowed it to rage like a wildfire and just suppress it or pretend it isn't there. Compensate for it is oftentimes what happens. You will want to know what the destructive dialogue is hitting on the different points of your life. We measure it in over 6 quadrillion different variables. So really understanding the depth of your destructive dialogue is crucial. Number 2, fantasy and catastrophe. Major enemies to this dynamic of being able to develop yourself, of being able to actually enhance the quality of your life, and to be able to realize your dreams and aspirations. It's fantasy and catastrophe. Fantasy and catastrophe is actually based on an amazing gift that we have to create what neuroscientists call mental constructs. Mental constructs are a vision, like a vision board. They're a mission, they're a why. The challenge is, we know statistically that over 90% of you on this webinar, watching this recording, have an amazing and effortless ability to create mental constructs. And we create these mental constructs, and they are, by definition, a new reality. Now, a new reality that we have a tendency, 98% of us, have a proclivity, which is also the number of us having major challenges with personal development, that we've statistically researched, 98%, and this is one of the fundamental challenges with it, we're creating mental constructs that are delivering us into fantasy or driving us into the deep, dark dungeons of catastrophe. One or the other. The mental construct of fantasy is what my life will be like when, and how amazing it's going to be. And there's the orphanages that I'll build in Africa, and I can see the children that are there, and the walls, or the Ferrari that I want to have, and the big car, and the money that I'm going to make. They're oftentimes driven by escape. We want to escape. We want to escape the job that we're working. We want to escape the frustrations we're facing. We want to escape the weight that we've gained. We want to escape something, and so we dive into our natural gifts, build a mental construct, and oftentimes without even realizing that we're doing it, build a mental construct that drives us into fantasy. And why is that a problem? Because it just turned our current reality into the enemy. Because that one feels so much better. Our gift is that strong, we can feel the mental construct. It creates a physiological response as if we're actually there. It's actually happening. That's awesome, but awesomely scary, because if we're going there to escape and our current life becomes the enemy, guess who gets caught in the crosshairs? You do. Oftentimes as a casualty to your own life, to your own dreams, your own aspirations. Feeling like you're always starting at square one and stuck in this hamster wheel where you can see success in front of you because you've been able to visualize it all this time, but you never get there. Okay? Fantasy. Catastrophe is taking that mental construct and throwing it in the mud, always thinking about the worst case scenarios, always playing out this dialogue and destructive stories about what's possible for you and that you're never going to be good enough, and whatever the case is, attacking the worst case scenarios and the worthiness of our lives. That catastrophe, those mental constructs, if those become our new reality, also creates major challenges with our current reality and can drive us into poor health, can drive us into depression, drive us into anxiety and distress and all kinds of major challenges. But this is all born from an amazing gift, that strength that is out of control, that gift to visualize, which is a huge part of what we want to develop personally, what we want to personally develop. Because if we're going to realize our dreams and aspirations, we're certainly going to want to be able to create them. But we want to be really careful, and this is easier said than done, from creating them as a fantasy or creating them and allowing them to drop into the bucket of catastrophe. Mental constructs, 98% of us are using them destructively. Period. So to say, I get it, is a dangerous assumption, because there's a lot we're going to want to explore and figure out about that. Okay? Fantasy and catastrophe. Third one. The need to be right. This is also one of the 7 enemies. The need to be right comes from the systemic elements of our brain. The way we process things in black and white, right or wrong, win or lose, life or death. It's mathematically, it's a singular existence, so it can't have a gray area. It can't coexist and collaborate. It either is or it is not, which can be really helpful for clarity for laws and rules and organization kind of stuff. But when it comes to our interactions in our lives and our relationships and our relationship with others and with ourselves, the need to be right comes from a very active mind, tremendous gift where you feel like your brain is always running. Statistically speaking, most of you watching this recording probably have very active minds. It's a very entrepreneurial characteristic, very independent thinking kind of characteristic. You don't necessarily need to work for yourself to be in that space. I had the opportunity to work for myself for many years and work for others in a very entrepreneurial capacity. I've always thought that way. Very active mind, very visual, very thinking about possibilities and all kinds of stuff. Tremendous gifts that can create major challenges. And one of the biggest ones from that overactive mind is the need to be right, because we get very attached to our ideas. When we get very attached to our ideas, and usually when we need to be right, unfortunately, it's oftentimes coupled with the fact that we usually are. I say we, I'm a recovering need to be writer, and I know many of you are. And when we need to be right, we get so focused on the idea that we're attached to, and is probably right from our perspective. We feel this attachment. It actually creates a molecular interaction that we feel this attachment and creates all sorts of challenges when we start to crush people. Our intentions are good. We're trying to correct a child who did something wrong, but we're so focused on the solution, we miss the child. We have an employee who just doesn't seem competent to show up the way that we want them to, but we're so focused on the solution, we miss the employee. We know that everyone has a big wall of resistance. And there's us over here, and there's them, and on the them side is 40%, on average, 40% in a non-adversarial relationship, like a friendship, 40% of their energy and their cooperation is being withheld behind that wall. And that wall doesn't come down until they feel understood. And when we're thinking about life, our success, even our dreams and aspirations, in our all or nothing kind of mentality, and we need to be right to ourselves or to others, we need to compensate, prove things, all kinds of unhealthy practices, we ram into this wall and we crush people, or we crush ourselves in the process. We throw up on the wall. We do all kinds of things in an effort to need to be right. And it's not like an adolescent need. It's not like entitlement. It's like being dehydrated and needing water. You can see the solution. You can see the problem. You can see what they're doing wrong. So you would be doing them a disservice to not fix that. And yet, how often is that poorly received? How often do we feel like we're having the same conversations with poor performing employees or children that we always have, because we continue to battle this wall rather than bring it down? This is a wall we're going to want to bring down in ourselves and bring down in others, and we can't do that if we don't understand the dynamics between us and our thoughts, because these thoughts are pervasive, because we are actually getting physically attached to them. I mean, seriously, you get caught up in this need to be right, in this systemic battle. We call it rock, spear, rocket, bomb. You throw a rock at somebody, they throw a spear back at you, so you launch a rocket at them, they drop a bomb on you, and then the dust settles, and you're like, wow, why did I get so caught up about that? We were just trying to decide where to go to dinner, okay? Like, seriously, that's one of the major challenges of the need to be right. And a lot of us meaning we have profiles on a lot of you, entrepreneurial, independently minded individuals naturally drawn to personal development, have a challenge with needing to be right. Whether we need to be right about why we're not succeeding, or we need to be right about the way we're going to succeed, we're going to want to examine this and start to deconstruct this major challenge. And of these 3 enemies out of the 7, giving us an opportunity to start to be open, start to be curious about why we are focused on personal development and how we're going to apply it to our lives. So those are 3 big challenges, 3 of the 7 enemies that we have time to talk about today, for you to start to open your mind to some of this stuff. Now, time for the conclusion. Remember how we talked about books, seminars, speeches, and even coaching is not personal development. That's the due diligence. That's the preparation for personal development. Personal development is what happens after those things. Personal development is when you leave this from watching this recording, or left the webinar earlier this morning, or whatever the case is, and you came to a moment, we call them a pivotal moment, where you decide to sit in the observer's chair and become aware of the way your thoughts are influencing how you're going to spend the rest of your afternoon, or what you are or aren't going to get done today, or whatever the case is, and whether you can step back and be in that position of strength and choose to go against the grain, choose to go against your sabotaging patterns of thought, to decide to go a different direction, or to decide to surrender to them. Either one is developing yourself for good or for worse. That is personal development. It is that moment, and there are infinite numbers of them every day, where we choose to make a different decision, to take a different action. All of this stuff, powerful, worthwhile, do it. But start doing it under the context of it preparing you to have a heightened level of awareness to identify those moments. Because we spend so much time in here retrospectively, and oftentimes people refer to it as introspectively, but it's really retrospectively looking at the way we acted in past situations. Why did I do that? Why didn't I do that? Well, because in the moment, we weren't aware of the impact our thoughts were having on us. So we didn't have the ability to separate those. We became victims to our own unhealthy habits of thinking, and we chose something that in a more clear state of consciousness, like when we were reading that book or in that seminar, we felt like we were going to make a different choice. And here's why. In your mind, we have this gap between where we are and where we want to be. There's this gap. We want to bridge this gap because over here is success. Over here is where we are. And so we read the books. We go to the seminars, and what happens? We bridge the gap. We've all felt this. We've been reading that self-help book. We've been listening to that inspiring speech. We went to that convention or that seminar or that workshop, and we could feel it. Yes, I can see myself transforming. I can see myself personally developing. I can see myself taking on those habits. I can see myself being more consistent, managing my time better, eating better, working out more, calling those people I should have been calling all this time, whatever the case is. And suddenly in our mind, in a very powerful way, with those mental constructs, boom, we bridge the gap. And then it's time to go and move from our mind to our physical reality. And guess what? The gap ain't bridged no more. Okay? We bridged it in our mind, and now we've got this false sense of confidence that we have been personally developed. We have enhanced the quality of our life, and we have realized our dreams and aspirations. No, you haven't. You've prepared yourself to do that, but you haven't done it yet. You've prepared yourself to do it because in your reality, this gap doesn't get bridged. You jump. Now, personal development can bring this gap so that it's a realistic jump. None of us are going to be able to run and clear a 150-foot gap, but there's a lot of us that can clear a 10-foot one if we don't psych ourselves out and we get a decent run at it. Okay? So an opportunity to be able to personally develop using that same analogy, personally develop our skills and our confidence and our ability to run and our drive off of our leg to jump and clear that gap in our life. And what are these gaps? What are these jumps? It's different for all of us. We all have different gaps. We all have different jumps that we're going to need to make, we're going to want to make every day. And you're going to know you're jumping them because if you've ever jumped over something you weren't quite sure you could clear or jumped off something really high, you get kind of this feeling because your brain kind of panics for a second. You can't do that. And that's your unhealthy habit of thinking or even your limbic system, your basic brain trying to keep you safe in your comfort zone. Even if it's painful, it's funny it's called a comfort zone, because even if it's painful, it's looking for more about what's familiar, what's predictable, to be able to reduce its energy output. That's the way it's built. It doesn't want to jump. It'd rather let you bridge those gaps or jump those gaps in your mind. It doesn't want you to actually jump in reality. That's scary. That's fear. And then your thought processes get mixed in fear, and it creates this wicked cocktail of what we've talked about in the past of false evidence appearing real. The jump still has to happen. And that right there is why personal development is broken. Because we continue to think that it's the bridging of the gap in our mind, and we assume, without even realizing we're doing it, that that's just naturally going to turn into bridging the gap in our reality. And then we get frustrated and we feel like we're starting back at square one, or we're so close, but we never get it. Why not? I can see it. I can taste it. I can touch it. Why can't I have it? There are a lot of things to examine in that area. But understand that a big part of it is getting uncomfortable, is jumping. That's how you stretch and grow. Because guess what happens as soon as you jump this gap? Boom, there's another one. There's another gap for you to jump. And then you jump that one, and there's another one. And you jump that one, and there's another one. And there's another one. And pretty soon we realize that life is about jumps. And guess what? If we don't want life to be about jumps, no wonder we're never going to bridge this gap. But if we embrace the jumps, we get good at the jumps, we do them often, as I've said. When we do things often, it becomes a pleasure to perform. When it's a pleasure to perform, it's our nature to perform it often. When we get good at jumping, rather than hoping this is the last jump we're ever going to have to take, we finally reach a level of freedom and equanimity, being peace, where we can create success, where we can actually enhance the quality of our life, and we can realize, not just visualize, realize our dreams and aspirations. So, read your books, listen to your seminars, work with your coaches, but do it with the singular focus that it is to jump. Because if you're not jumping after what you are learning, you are not personally developing. You haven't checked the personal development box and you're just waiting to get enough deposits into that it's going to roll over naturally into your physical reality. Books, seminars, speeches, they don't do that. You will want them to be designed to teach you how to jump. That is how we fix personal development. That's how we make sure that it's not broken for us. We realize that our thoughts have been influencing us in ways that we can't comprehend. There's 6 quadrillion variables we measure with our assessment. And then being able to start to prepare ourselves to jump, not to assume that we already have in our minds, without even knowing it, so that when it shows up, it's like getting hit by a Greyhound bus, stepping off the curb because we weren't really ready for personal development. I'm a huge fan of books and speakers and seminars and coaches, obviously. I am one. That's our business. Find one that's going to prepare you to jump. Find one that's going to hold you accountable properly to jump. Teach you the appropriate techniques, principles, and practices and processes to jump well and to jump consistently. And you'll find yourself enhancing the quality of your life and realizing your dreams and aspirations. Now, as a thank you for watching this recording, and I gave the same thing to those who were on the webinar, there's an opportunity to measure your thinking habits, your thoughts for free with our latest tool, which is called the Habit Finder, which is the most current, enhanced, advanced version of our assessment. If you go to habitfinder.com, you'll get to take it for free. It's normally $99. You log on right there. Pretty seamless process for you to get to take that for free. You even get a complimentary session with one of my coaches to be able to talk with them about your thought processes and explore probably some of the most important things you could consider to be able to be ready to jump. And if that leads to coaching with us, awesome. But if not, no problem. I'm glad you were here. I hope you got something out of this. I don't have an elaborate pitch at this point. Take this information, understand that I get it. It's one of the most dangerous things you can do at this point. And start to approach personal development the way it was meant to actually enhance, actually realize your dreams and your aspirations. And make sure that the due diligence, the tools, the preparation you're using is actually leading you to real personal development, not just feeling better about yourself. It's great to feel good about yourself, but if it's a couple of years down the road and you just feel better about being broke, what did you accomplish? So let's measure those thoughts. Let's take on those enemies to our being our true self and creating our real success. Let's jump. Let's create that success. And if you need any help doing that at a higher level, we're ready to serve. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Take care.